These are the 10 rarest and most legendary British vintage trucks ever built. One truck on this list was built only twice in the entire world. Another should not exist at all, yet 17 of 18 still survive today. Stick around, because the very last one may be the rarest truck in British history. Number 10, Guy Big J. Number 10 on our list is the Guy Big J. This truck came from a factory in Wolverhampton, England, built by a company called Guy Motors. Guy Motors had been building trucks since 1914, and by the early 1960s, they were a well-known name across Britain. But their older trucks, the Warrior and the Invincible, were starting to feel outdated next to newer competitors on the road. So in 1964, Guy Motors launched something new. They called it the Big J. The name actually stood for Big Jaguar, because the famous car company Jaguar had bought Guy Motors a few years earlier and taken control of the business. This connection to Jaguar gave the new truck extra attention when it first arrived. The Big J used an all-steel cab built by a separate company called Coventry Motor Panels. This cab design was so good that Coventry Motor Panels also sold the same basic shape to other truck makers, including a company called Sentinel. Drivers who used the Big J liked how tough and dependable it felt on long hauls. Guy Motors did not just sell the Big J across Britain. They shipped complete knockdown kits overseas, letting workers in other countries assemble the trucks locally. This made the Big J especially popular in faraway markets across the Far East, where local assembly kept costs lower for buyers. Despite this success, Guy Motors could not keep the factory running forever. Financial troubles built up over the years, and the famous Fallings Park factory in Wolverhampton finally closed for good in 1982. The Big J itself had already lived through big changes in ownership, since Guy Motors later became part of British Leyland after a series of company mergers during the late 1960s. Most Big J trucks built during those years were eventually scrapped for parts once they wore out from decades of heavy hauling work. Some surviving examples were not even put on the road until years after they left the factory, sitting in storage before finally being registered and driven. Complete original survivors are treasured today by a small group of collectors who spent years hunting them down, often restoring engines and cabs piece by piece to bring these tough old workhorses back to life. Number 9, Leyland Class H Steam Wagon. Number 9 takes us back to a truck that shares its name with an entire industry. This is the Leyland Class H Steam Wagon, built in the exact year that changed British trucking forever. That year was 1907. Before 1907, a small company called Lancashire Steam Motor Company had already been building steam wagons for several years. That same year, they purchased another steam wagon builder named Coulthards of Preston, who had been making similar vehicles since 1897. Combining these two companies created something bigger, and the business renamed itself Leyland Motors. This is the exact moment the famous Leyland name entered trucking history. The Class H steam wagon relied on a large boiler to build up pressure. That pressure pushed pistons inside the engine, which turned the wheels forward. Compared to a horse pulling a heavy cart, this steam wagon could move goods faster and for longer distances without stopping to rest. Farmers, factories, and delivery businesses across Britain slowly began trusting these new steam machines over traditional horsepower. It was not an instant change, but steam wagons like the Class H proved that mechanical power could handle serious daily work without breaking down constantly. Very few Class H wagons survive today. Most were driven until they broke down completely, then sold off for scrap metal once repairs became too expensive. Owners of that era saw these wagons as work tools, not historical treasures, so almost nobody thought to save one once it stopped running well. The rare surviving examples now sit carefully preserved inside museums, including the British Commercial Vehicle Museum, located in Leyland, England, the very town that gave the company its name. Standing next to one of these wagons today means standing next to the actual machine that launched an entire industry. Built in the same year, the Leyland name first appeared on a factory gate. Number 8, Thornycroft Steam Van. Number 8 goes back even further, all the way to 1896. This is the Thornycroft Steam Van, and many historians consider it Britain's very first true motor lorry. It was built by John Isaac Thornycroft, a man who actually made his name building boats rather than trucks. Thornycroft's steam van could carry about 1 ton of cargo. That number seems small today, but in 1896, almost everything still moved by horse and cart. When Thornycroft showed off his new steam van at a famous venue called Crystal Palace, crowds gathered just to watch it roll forward without any horses attached. Inside the van sat a clever compound engine with 2 cylinders working together. High-pressure steam entered the first cylinder, then moved into a second, larger cylinder to extract even more power from the same steam. This design gave the van extra strength for climbing hills that would have tired out any horse. Thornycroft later built a modified tipping version of this same van for a local council government. Historians believe this became one of the very first motorized garbage collection vehicles anywhere in the world, years before other cities even considered replacing horse-drawn carts. Thornycroft's early success did not stop with vans. His company later built thousands of steam and petrol trucks for the British military, especially during the First World War, when reliable transport became critical for moving supplies to soldiers. But that later success traces directly back to this single steam van built in 1896. Almost none of these original vans have survived the passing decades. They represent the true starting point of British motor trucking, yet physical proof of their existence is nearly impossible to find outside of old photographs and written records from the period. What we know about this pioneering vehicle comes mostly from newspaper articles and company records written more than a century ago. Number 7. Foden C-Type Steam Wagon. Britannia Number 7 belongs to a truck with one of the greatest travel stories ever told. This is the Foden C-Type Steam Wagon, better known by its nickname, Britannia. Built in 1926 as a working 6-ton steam wagon, Britannia spent years hauling ordinary loads before an incredible journey made it world famous. In 1969, a man named Michael List Brain came up with an ambitious idea. He wanted to drive Britannia completely around the entire globe using nothing but steam power. Along with a small group of friends, he carefully restored the aging wagon and prepared it for a journey unlike anything attempted before. This trip became known as the Grand Global Tour, and it lasted over 4 full years, stretching from late 1969 all the way into early 1974. Britannia rolled through countries including Afghanistan, Australia, India, and the United States, crossing deserts, mountains, and unfamiliar roads on solid rubber tires built decades earlier for much gentler use. A small living space was attached to the back of the wagon, giving the crew somewhere to sleep during the long journey. Keeping an old steam engine running reliably across so many different climates and terrains took constant maintenance and real dedication from everyone involved in the trip. When the journey finally ended, Britannia had become the first steam-powered road vehicle to circle the entire world. No other steam wagon has matched that achievement since, and none likely ever will, given how difficult it is to keep century-old steam technology running across so many different countries and road conditions. Today, Britannia is preserved and cared for at a private steam museum, where visitors can still see the actual truck that made history. The stories collected from her drivers during those 4 years on the road could fill an entire book on their own, covering everything from mechanical breakdowns in remote deserts to curious crowds gathering wherever she stopped. Number 6. AEC Mammoth Major 8. Number 6 represents a genuine engineering milestone. This is the AEC Mammoth Major 8, first introduced in 1934. AEC set out with a bold goal, becoming the first company anywhere in the world to build a rigid, eight-wheeler truck powered by a true internal combustion engine, rather than steam. Some steam-powered eight-wheelers had existed before this, but nothing using a modern combustion engine had ever been attempted successfully. AEC's engineers worked to solve problems that no one else had faced, since adding extra axles and wheels created serious challenges for steering, weight distribution, and overall stability. The finished Mammoth Major 8 could carry a payload of 15 tons, an enormous amount of cargo for a single truck at that time. Buyers could choose between a petrol engine or a diesel engine, depending on their business needs, giving operators flexibility that competing trucks simply did not offer. Here is what makes this particular truck so rare today. AEC only built 33 examples of the original version, known as Model 680, before quickly replacing it with an improved Mark II design in 1935. That means the trucks that actually broke new engineering ground exist in extremely small numbers compared to later models. Most surviving AEC 8-wheelers that collectors find today are later Mark II or Mark III, versions built after the design had already been refined and improved. The original 33 trucks that proved the entire concept could work are almost impossible to locate, making them true engineering pioneers hidden somewhere in history. AEC named nearly every truck in this range after words starting with the letter M, including models called Mercury, Monarch, and Mandator. This naming habit made the Mammoth Major 8 instantly recognizable to buyers, even as the lineup grew larger and more complicated over the following decades. Number 5, Atkinson Steam Wagon, Her Majesty Number 5, belongs to a truck known simply by its nickname, Her Majesty. This is an Atkinson steam wagon built in 1918, and its story carries real weight once you understand the numbers behind it. Atkinson built more than 500 steam wagons like this one throughout their years of production. 500 trucks sounds like plenty of surviving examples to search for. But Her Majesty stands alone as the last known survivor out of every single Atkinson steam wagon ever built. Every other example from that entire production run has been lost, scrapped, or simply vanished from history over the past century. This particular wagon was built as a colonial-type model, rated for 6 tons of cargo. It was specifically designed to handle rougher terrain and tougher working conditions than standard city delivery wagons faced daily. That extra durability may be exactly why Her Majesty managed to survive when hundreds of sister vehicles did not. Being the very last survivor from an entire production line places enormous historical importance on this single truck. Collectors, historians, and museum curators treat Her Majesty as an irreplaceable artifact, since replacing even a single damaged part means either finding rare original components or carefully handcrafting a matching piece from scratch. Every rivet and panel tells a story that would otherwise be completely lost forever, since there is nothing left anywhere to compare it against. If Her Majesty had been scrapped like her sister wagons, the entire visual record of Atkinson's early steam wagons would exist only in old photographs and written descriptions. Number 4, Fowler Steam Wagon Pendle Prince. Number 4 holds one of the most dramatic rescue stories on this entire countdown. This is a Fowler steam wagon nicknamed Pendle Prince, built back in 1931. Fowler was another well-respected name among British steam wagon manufacturers, competing during this era of trucking history. Unlike several trucks on this list that were carefully protected from the very beginning, Pendle Prince faced a much rougher path. At some point during its working life, the wagon was abandoned entirely, and its remaining parts ended up scattered inside a scrapyard, slowly rusting away and forgotten by nearly everyone who once knew it. A dedicated restorer eventually discovered these leftover pieces buried among other scrapped machinery. Rather than walking away from what looked like a hopeless project, he made the decision to rebuild the entire truck starting almost from scratch, carefully sourcing whatever original components could still be salvaged from the wreckage. This restoration process took enormous patience and skill, piecing together a complete working vehicle from what many people would have considered permanently lost. Parts that could not be salvaged had to be rebuilt by hand, matching original measurements and materials as closely as possible to keep the wagon historically accurate. Today, Pendle Prince stands as the last known surviving Fowler steam wagon anywhere in the world, a title it holds because one person refused to give up on a pile of rusted parts sitting in a forgotten corner of a scrapyard. Without that decision, the Fowler name would exist today only in old company records and faded photographs. Number 3. Sentinel Standard Steam Wagon. Number 3 takes us north into Scotland, home to a Sentinel Standard steam wagon, holding a very specific and important distinction. This particular wagon is the only surviving Scottish-built Sentinel wagon known to exist anywhere on Earth today. This wagon was originally sold brand new to a carrier named Alexander Runcie, based in a Scottish town called Inverurie. It spent its entire early working life hauling goods throughout that local area, earning its keep day after day for years across the surrounding countryside and market towns nearby. By 1945, ownership had shifted, and the wagon began working with a different haulage company located near a town called Huntly. Eventually, after years of hard use, the wagon ended up sitting partly dismantled inside a storage yard, quietly forgotten as newer diesel trucks took over its old routes. In 1966, someone recognized the historical importance of what remained and stepped in to rescue the wagon before it could be scrapped completely. That single decision preserved the only physical proof that Sentinel had ever manufactured wagons inside Scotland at all, rather than just in their main English factory. These standard Sentinels relied on an efficient vertical boiler design that allowed a skilled fireman to build up steam pressure quickly. This gave Sentinel wagons a real advantage over slower competing brands during daily operation, since a wagon that generated steam faster could get back to work sooner after every stop. Today, this rare Scottish survivor sits on permanent display at the Grampian Transport Museum, representing an entire branch of Sentinel's manufacturing story found nowhere else in the world. Number 2. Scammell Showtrac. Number 2 produces numbers that seem almost impossible once you hear them. This is the Scammell Showtrac, built between late 1945 and 1948. Scammell only ever constructed 18 of these trucks in total, an incredibly small production run for any commercial vehicle built during that era. Here is the detail that leaves truck historians shaking their heads. Out of those original 18 Showtracs ever built, 17 of them are still known to survive today. That kind of survival rate is almost unheard of for a truck built more than 70 years ago. Most trucks from this same period, even ones produced by the thousands, have survival rates far below this. Vehicles get crushed for scrap, left to rust in fields, or simply lost to time as decades pass. For a truck, this rare to retain nearly its entire original production run intact is genuinely remarkable among collectors. In 2007, 7 of these surviving Showtracs were brought together at a single location called Dingles. Picture nearly half of an entire production run, standing side by side in one place at the same time, something that almost never happens with vehicles this old and this rare. For collectors and historians who attended, this gathering represented a once-in-a-lifetime sight, proof that dedicated owners had carefully protected almost every single Showtrac ever manufactured. The Showtrac was actually Scammell's first new product after the Second World War ended, marking a fresh start for a company that had spent the previous years focused entirely on military vehicles. Number 1. Scammell Hundred Tonner. Number 1 is the rarest and most legendary British truck on this entire list. This is the Scammell Hundred Tonner, built in 1929. The moment this truck rolled out of the factory, it made history immediately, becoming the largest lorry produced anywhere in the world at that point in time. This was not simply a large truck built for show. It was a fully functional, articulated heavy haulage vehicle engineered by a designer named Oliver North specifically to move loads that no other truck of that era could even attempt to carry across British roads. But here is the number that cements this truck's legendary status above every other vehicle on this list. Scammell only ever built 2 complete 100-tonners in total. Not 200 trucks, not 20 trucks. Just 2 examples existed in the entire world at any point in history. Consider how extreme that rarity truly is compared to everything else we have covered today. Every other truck on this countdown, even the rarest survivors, came from production runs numbering in the dozens or hundreds of vehicles. The 100-tonner had exactly 2, making detailed records and photographs difficult enough to find, let alone any surviving physical remains. This truck represented the absolute peak of British engineering ambition in 1929. It set a genuine world record and stood as a powerful symbol of what British manufacturing could accomplish when pushed to its limits. The 100-tonner arrived just 2 years after Scammell had already introduced the Pioneer, a rugged cross-country truck that became a huge success on its own, proving the company had a talent for building vehicles that pushed past what anyone thought possible. Yet because only 200-tonners were ever constructed, this remains one of the most mysterious and hardest to trace vehicles in British trucking history. These 10 trucks trace the full story of British trucking, starting with a single steam-powered van built in 1896 and stretching all the way through steel-cabbed giants built decades later. Some of these trucks survived through pure luck. Others were rescued from scrapyards by people who simply refused to let their history disappear forever. What connects every truck on this list is how close each one came to vanishing completely. A different owner, a different scrapyard visit, or a single missed rescue could have erased any of these machines from history without a trace. Instead, they survived as living proof of what British engineers and factory workers were capable of building with their own hands. If you love stories about rare and forgotten machines like these, tell us in the comments which truck on this list surprised you the most. Was it the 100-tonner with only 2 ever built? Or the Showtrac with its remarkable 17 out of 18 survival rate? Share your thoughts below, and we will see you in the next one.